the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, has resigned. But what next? Hi, welcome to the channel. My name is Rev Dan. I'm a vicar in the Church of England. On this channel, you get all my views as a parish priest on all the Christian news happening in the world today. Subscribe to my Substack where there's more content out over there. And if you want to support this channel, you can do that as well. So Justin Welby today has resigned. The pressure on him was mounting. I would say you could almost feel it. There's so many newspaper reports over the last day, and then today there was lots of speculation whether he would go. Is in the news. People were waiting, and then we finally received this afternoon his confirmation that he was resigning. You know, at the point that I got the notification that Justin Welby had resigned, I was doing what many local parish priests do. They were just out doing their jobs. I was, in fact, in our churchyard looking for a gravestone. We had somebody in. They thought the gravestone had gone missing, so we was trying to locate the gravestone. We did find it. Don't worry, it was there. They just didn't remember where it was. But that's what we do on the ground. And there's been a lot on the news, as I've been catching up on the news since I got back, of this divide between what the local parochial clergy are doing and like the House of Bishops and the Archbishops, and hopefully reform will come out of this, and we will come out with a better and stronger Church of England over this, and not what it is now. There's a lot of negative reporting about what's gone on and how people feel about the Church of England, and that just shows that there is quite a division. We all know that there is division over the prayers and love and faith, and that is always been there. You know, just a couple of weeks ago, Justin Welby had publicly admitted for the first time that he has changed his doctrine on where sex is placed, which the Bible tells us in marriage between a man and a woman. But he was there on the podcast saying as long as it's in a committed relationship, really, whether that's heterosexual or homosexual, which is against the teachings of the Bible, the doctrine of the church that he leads. And there were many people 2 weeks ago calling for him to step down, because how can you lead the Church of England if you do not believe in the doctrine of the Church of England? But now it's come to this where, in all honesty, he had to step down. It was disclosed to him Smythe's abuses, and in the Makin report they were absolutely horrendous, what that man was doing. And this is what these perpetrators do. They coerce, they use power, influence, their personality to continue to do what they want to do, that gives them gratification. And we see he continued. He stopped in England, and then he went to Zimbabwe, and when he couldn't do it anymore in Zimbabwe, he went to South Africa, and it continued until the day that he died, really. And so it is down to having robust structures within the church to make sure that these people can't continue in what they have done. But this has highlighted so much the failings for many years. And as I have said before, that this should never have got to 2013 and come across Justin Welby's desk. This should have been stopped before. This man should have been notified to the police, and it should have stopped. And that man should have got help, and he should have repented, and there should have been procedures and policies, whatever they might be, in place to stop him from ever working his way back into the church or anything associated with the church because of what he had done. So he should have been stopped back in the 80s. Justin Welby said he didn't take the right action in 2013, but then, you know, as safeguarding has got better, and, you know, he has put good work into improving safeguarding, you know, why didn't he look back in later years, 2016, definitely 2017, when the Channel 4 exposed John Smythe, and look back and saw, actually, looking at it from this point in time and understanding safeguarding now, he should have done something about it, but he didn't, and it's continued up until this point where, because of that, he has had to step down as the Archbishop of Canterbury, which has just dominated the news all afternoon. It's in the papers. I keep getting notifications. It's been on all the TV news channels. There's been so many people on speaking. And so this is a huge story. Actually, I was speaking to my wife about it, and she said, how do you feel? And actually, it's quite surreal. It's unprecedented, really, for the head of a church in the Church of England to step down in such a way. But like I said, there was nothing else he could do. It's the right thing to do. But what's really important now is for the Church of England to learn and to try and move forward with better things in place. First of all, is to make safeguarding independent of the church. The church sorts its own safeguarding. There are no checks and balances. If it becomes independent, we are all accountable. And this is part of the problem that we feel at the parochial level, that if we did anything like not disclose a safeguarding issue and it came up later, we would definitely be under a clergy disciplinary measure. We could lose our license, and that means losing our living. And that should apply across the board. Making safeguarding independent would ensure that we are all accountable. And it does seem, just by hearing the news and what people are saying, and more will come out over the coming weeks, that people have been protected, and people are scared also to speak out. But for the Bishop of Newcastle, none of the bishops spoke out about this. There was silence, and it was deafening. And so the question's got to be asked: why? Is it the culture? What's going on? Why was there such silence? Safeguarding has to be independent of the Church of England, and people have to be safe. The other thing that we can't forget is the victims, and absolutely hugely important. This is one thing that in this big news story, that the victims are not forgotten, and not just as Smythe, but all those other victims that have been abused in the Church of England and in other denominations, because sadly it happens in other denominations as well. And if you are a victim, there is help for you. Down below is a link for help if you have not got that yet. It's so important to say that you are not alone. And a lot of the victims have said, as this has gone on, that they have felt in a sense re-abused, because they've come forward and it's been a hard thing. They've disclosed what's happened, thinking that the abusers, and not just speaking about Smythe, but other people who've done this as well, will be brought to justice, and it hasn't happened, and that must be so difficult for all the victims. And so the victims must not be forgotten about this. And also in the Smythe case, the others who never reported this also have to be accountable for what they have done, because if the Archbishop of Canterbury has been accountable and resigned, then we have to understand this going all the way back. Now, I've had conversations with people and said, in the 80s it was very different and the culture was very different. And it was. But again, as I say, as we've gone forward and learnt about safeguarding and understanding what abuse is, and our understanding now in 2024 is a lot better. But abuse is still abuse. And a conversation with the police at any time would have helped to understand the seriousness of what he was doing, even though it was perhaps 40 years ago, and it could have, like I said, stopped there. So that's the hope, that reform will come. But let's not forget, the Church of England is hugely divided at this time. It really is. We are not one church. We have the same-sex blessings going to be spoken at General Synod in February and July next year, and the introduction of same-sex clergy being allowed to marry in civil ceremonies. We cannot forget this. And so we are, in a sense, a divided church. The Liberals want us to be one harmonious church. I don't think that could ever happen now. So what does it look like? What does the future look like? There's a lot of questions. Who will be the next Archbishop of Canterbury? And the reality in a divided church, we know the Archbishop of York is Liberal on these issues, that the Archbishop of Canterbury should be Orthodox on these issues. At least it balances out. At least we have an Archbishop to go to. The Orthodox, both evangelical and Anglo-Catholic in the church, are hoping the alliance can provide a de facto province on which, well, not the Anglo-Catholics, they got the society, but the evangelicals are hoping the alliance can provide a de facto province in the church and provide us with spiritual oversight. I know that local clergy are speaking to the diocese, in the diocese, to their bishops who are liberal on this. Can we have a suffragan bishop who is orthodox that we can go to, because we are not in relationship, we're not in communion with you anymore. So why not also one of the archbishops, the Archbishop of Canterbury? We will have to wait and see, because now this is a big moment now over going into next year. Who becomes archbishop? What's the direction of the church? Remember, again, unprecedented, the Archbishop of Canterbury, because of the same-sex blessings, was not seen as the first amongst equals in the Anglican communion, and the Church of England not seen as a mother church anymore, because we were moving away from the doctrine of the church, from the teachings of the Bible. And that, again, was unprecedented. And so could the next Archbishop of Canterbury restore that? The only way that would happen would be if they were orthodox on this. And that is a big question. So we're really in a territory now where it's going to be so much uncertainty, because it's going to take a long time for this to be resolved, to understand who's going to be the next Archbishop of Canterbury. And there'll be awaiting a lot of people on tender hooks. But the big news is that the Archbishop of Canterbury has resigned from his position. And again, that's unprecedented, but he could not stay because he did not take action when a serious safeguarding allegation against John Smythe came across his table. Well, it was a verbal report, and that's a huge failure, because Smythe went on to abuse, he had already abused 30 boys in England. He went on to abuse 100 more in Zimbabwe and South Africa. And like I said, that could have been stopped. So we will see what happens now. This will always be developing. Will the bishops look at themselves and understand why they didn't speak out? Will they see that it feels that there's such a disconnect between the bishops and the local clergy? Will that culture change? Will the culture change in the Church of England, where you're freely allowed to speak out, that we're allowed to dissent? They say that the Church of England is a broad church, and yet it feels that if you speak from a particular point of view, that you're not allowed to speak out without any comeback on that. And it's experienced by a lot of people. We will see what the future holds, but this is a watershed moment, as it were, in the Church of England. The question that we have, the question that I have, is God shaking the tree? Is he restoring the Church of England? Is this now the time that God is coming to us who are Bible-believing Orthodox, preaching the word of the gospel out there and saying, this is the time now, everything is coming back, and it's time for us to stand up, and it's time to us not to be quiet anymore, but to bring the Christian teachings back into society. The church has lost its voice, as it were. We were not listened to for such a long time. You can just see that online, and the comments a lot of people are making at the moment about Justin Welby himself. And now the church has to regain what we believe and bring that back into the public square, being the voice of reason and bringing those values back into society, which we now stand, which we have always stood on. But now we need to bring that back into society and bring that voice back there. This is a moment, maybe it's a God-given moment for us to come back and restore the Church of England to what it should be. That should be a church standing on the biblical teachings and going out to preach the gospel afresh to this generation.